Hi, I'm Rebecca, and as the pride flag probably shows to you above, I'm talking to you today as a bisexual woman and as what that means to me. Saying that I'm bisexual hasn't always been an easy thing for me. I think it's a word that for a long time didn't really feel like it belonged to me. It was a word that I was scared to define myself by. It felt foreign almost, a dirty word even, something that, even though it was maybe not a word that had been spoken much about in my childhood when I was growing up, even the LGBT community as a whole was never really spoken about to me. It was still something I associated with negative connotations, something that society had posed to be a bad thing. It was a word that, while I was questioning my sexuality, felt like something I was afraid of. So I first realised I was gay when I had a dream about Ellie Goulding, and she was naked. And I'd enjoyed it, which was a bit weird. But so that started the many years of questioning my sexuality, of coming to terms with the fact that I wasn't straight, that I liked women in the same way that I like men. And it was a very confusing time for me. It was a very dark time, something I was ashamed of for being. I think it's very scary when you first find out that you're not who you thought you were. You're discovering something that you've never thought about before. It's like redefining your entire identity around this one fact about yourself. And I think it made me feel quite down, very isolated. I didn't have any representation. I'd never met anyone bisexual, barely met anyone gay, and I think it led me to hate myself. I didn't like this part of who I was, and it consumed my entire identity. And I think it was a very dangerous thing that society had somehow subconsciously brought upon me. This obviously led me to the internet, as the typical young person that I am, Googling things like, how do I know if I'm gay? Am I gay? Quizzes. What is bisexual? I found out loads of YouTube coming out videos. I remember Tom Daly's being a particular one that my uncle had put on in the living room, and we sat and watched it, and everyone was very silent, and I was like, oh. But it made me find a community, made me feel less alone by relating to these strangers that I'd never heard of. And I think LGBT History Month is something where it does provide that representation, and it makes you feel more part of the community. And I think it helped me feel like I belonged. And this is a picture of me at Pride in Hull last year with my bi pride flag and my bi makeup. And I think it's just so lovely to finally feel like I'm in a place where I belong, with a label that fits me, and it gives me a community to be a part of. And this community is made up of so many different identities. I feel very privileged to have almost had this opportunity to learn about so many different people of all different genders, sexualities, and I think without questioning my identity I would be so oblivious to these people, and I feel almost responsible to educate others about it, because I am privileged as a white person growing up in Britain. I've not experienced direct homophobia. I've grown up in a tolerant community as such, and I feel I can have a voice to educate other people on identities like my own and also other identities, and sort of provide them representation when they maybe feel they don't have it. I did come out to some people. I came out to my mum first, and she was kind of supportive, but also like, no, you can't tell anyone, which did hurt. But I think I learned that it didn't have to be my secret, but I also could just go around and be free to be who I was. I don't find myself coming out to people anymore. I just find it sort of a part of me that it doesn't consume me anymore. It's just something that comes up in conversation. And I think, again, I feel very lucky in that aspect, because it's not something I feel I have to hide. It's just another part of me. And I am privileged in that way because I do have a boyfriend. I am in a straight passing relationship. It's not something that is involved in my everyday life, but at the same time, it's not a part of me that I'm ashamed of anymore. It's not something I have to hide. When thinking about LGBT History Month, a personal hero of mine is Alan Turing, and I thought I'd speak a bit about him because he was a mathematician, a sort of in World War II, helping to solve the Enigma code. But for his achievements were forgotten in history because of his sexuality. And I just find that so heartbreaking because it's this part of him that he can't change, it's not his fault. But society was so against that they criminalised him, they forgot all his efforts that helped us win the war, essentially. And I think it's so important to give light to LGBT voices that were hidden in the past, that still are hidden now. And I think it's really important to remember their stories. LGBT History Month this year is running on the theme of poetry, prose and plays, and is celebrating some of the fantastic LGBT writers in this country and around the globe. So to finish, I'd like to read a poem I've written called Homosexuality. How long have we fought this war, objectified, brushed aside, more of an afterthought, ostracised into suicide? 72 see only criminals, 8 demand the death penalty, xenophobic, homophobic, undermining our sexuality. Acknowledge girls with wives, let those boys kiss boys. It's our right to be remembered, time for change, to make some noise. Young people, be proud.